We are Man vs. Meeple, and for June 12th through the 25th, this is What's Next.
Welcome back to What's Next, the bi-weekly show where David and I walk you through all the games coming to your friendly local gaming store. We are on the eve of Origins 2017, so we have some titles on the list that are going to be at the show.
Yeah, a lot of big releases. Starting with number 5 this week, we have Century Spice Road. This is from Plan B Games. It's a 2 to 5 player engine building game, hand building game. We've done a review of this. A lot of people are calling it Splendor 2.0. It has a lot in common with that game in terms of engine building. I think I heard the designer interviewed recently, and the big differentiator he feels is the hand building. So in Splendor, you're building a tableau. This one, you're building a hand of cards, and on your turn, you're either going to be acquiring more spices. That's all. The game's all about trading spices, upgrading spices, and then fulfilling sort of these contracts that are out on the board.
Right.
And you can either acquire new cards to sort of build that engine, play the cards that you've acquired to sort of execute your plans, or then fulfill some of the contracts. Excellent little sort of gateway. If you love Splendor or games like that, this game is right up your alley. We've had a chance to play it.
Yeah, what's interesting too is that they have a 3-year plan with this one too. They have another game expecting to come out in 2018, and then a third one in the title in 2019, and we're not quite sure how they integrate with one another.
Well, interestingly enough, I just heard this interview with the designer, and they have a common thread of spice throughout them all, but they're completely different games. I heard that the next game is actually going to have a full-on board, mechanically plays completely different than this. But we'll definitely have that sort of DNA through the whole trilogy.
Perfect. My number 4 is Spirit Island, which was a Kickstarter last year. It's just now about to see wide release. It is about 2 hours to get through. It's pretty cool. It's an area control game. However, you are playing the island and you're representing a spirit along with the Dahan, which are like the natives of the island. And you're protecting it from invaders, but the invaders are really just colonists.
Yeah.
Who are trying to build towns and farms in this area. They're not intrinsically trying to hurt the land, but by building on the land they are. So you're protecting it, trying to drive them off. What's cool about this is that it has kind of a deck building hand management style to it, in which you're going to be acquiring new powers, using those powers, and growing them through the course of the game.
Yeah, it seems like it kind of turns the tables on the typical thing. We're usually the colonists in a board game doing this, so this is the island. Very kind of green, a green approach to this theme anyway.
All of these spirits themselves have really unique variable player powers in them as well.
Very cool.
Number 3.
Number 3, Onitama Sensei's Path. This is an expansion to Onitama. This has sold really well. If you've ever been into a game store, this is likely sitting out to demo. Excellent little strategy game. It's almost like a sort of entry-level game to chess. This one brings in new cards. It's really just more Onitama. However, the cards can be played in and of themselves, or you can mix them in with the current cards. And the new ones offer what was described to us. We had Tony recently here on set. He described them as slightly more advanced. Some of the movement was a little
allows you to jump and
jump a little bit bigger
and have
distances.
A wider variety of movements.
And if you've ever played the game, you know it's all about like adjusting to the moves that are in a particular game. So when you're just mixing in more, not to mention sort of crazier ones that allow you to some unique or different types of movement, it will really change this game up for sure.
Fantastic little filler game too.
It really
takes about 10
is.
to 20 minutes to get through.
Yeah, this is a great game to have. I mean, this is a game that almost anyone should have on their shelf for sure.
Number 2, a game that we have coming out for review soon.
Yes, Barren Park. We have a review coming up soon. We just played this, I don't know, we've got about three or four games in it.
Yeah.
Great little tile playing game. This is you're building a bear park, as you will, and you can basically take tiles from the board, and it's like Tetris.
Yeah.
Almost kind of like patchworky feel, but the game doesn't play that way. You're taking these, you're building them onto your park, you're expanding the park with more tiles. You can actually use these oddly shaped tiles across the park tiles that you're adding. Very, very puzzly, because in most tile placement games, there's a lot to consider here. You don't only place them wherever you want and try to piece them together, but you have to add them orthogonally to pieces that you've already played, which makes it even trickier.
Yeah.
And then, of course, there's variable scoring as well. I think there's 10 different end-of-game scoring tiles that can come into play, and you take 3 of those at the beginning of the game. So every game is going to have a fresh feel to it, and it's a bit of a race for a lot of those elements. You know, there's a race to get the first person to do this gets 10 points, and then 8, and so on and so forth.
It also walks that perfect line between a gateway game or a family game, and then also something that could be played very competitively between enthusiasts style gamers.
We found that when we played, especially in a 4-player game, some of the tile stacks will go away.
Right.
So if you haven't played well and sort of planned ahead, you're going to have gaps in your board, and gaps in the board in this game is not a good thing to have.
Right.
For sure.
Right. You won't finish out your board.
Great game, though.
Number 1, this is a game we've already reviewed, and one of the games I said personally would probably be one of the darlings at Origins.
Yeah.
It's called Frog Riders, and I don't think it's getting enough love.
Not yet.
This is a really cool 2 to 4 player set collection style game. Again, it walks that fine line between a gateway family game, but also a game that can be played competitively.
Sure.
It's a very unique theme. You have these frogs on a board, and you're basically leaping them over one other frog. There's 2 actions you take on your turn. One of them is mandatory, and that's by jumping a frog, and one of them is optional by turning in that frog of one of 4 different colors and getting a unique ability for that. However, you're collecting these frogs into a tableau in front of you, getting points at the end of the game for secret cards you may have, as well as public cards that you can score with as well.
Yeah, and it's a beautiful game on the table. It's incredibly colorful. Again, like Jeremy said, interesting theme, and one that you should really give a chance for sure.
I really like this game. So, Origins this week, but before we get there, we have a friendly local game store to talk about.
We do have a friendly local game store, and I have to say this week, a big shout out to our friend Marty. Marty Connell down in North Carolina of Rolling Dice and Taking Names. He suggested these guys, so we got in touch with them, and they gave us a little bit of information. They're called Carolina Tabletop Games, and they are in Pineville, North Carolina. I assume home of Marty as well, or at least nearby.
Right.
This is actually a smaller store. You know, we have a lot of massive stores on here with a ton of space. This is I think they have 1,100 square feet, so it's pretty small, but they make the pub-style environment work for them.
Nice.
So they have craft beers, they have sort of nicer stacks, they have really nice tables, so they try to make it a really sort of warm,
inviting,
pubby type, inviting atmosphere. And it seems to really work with them. They're family run, and they like to, you know, as a lot of these stores that we've talked to do, they like to try to make everyone who comes in feel like the family. They use the analogy of if you walk in and you don't feel like Norm from Cheers, by the time you leave, they want people to feel that way.
It's good.
So they'll come in, hopefully get to know you, welcome in. If you want to learn a game, they're happy to sit down with you and teach you a game. That sort of environment. Sounds like a really cool place. And if Marty vouches for them, we're going to have to definitely check them out when we're down there.
So if you guys are down in the Carolinas, check out Carolina Tabletop Games. Make sure you guys come by at Origins. We'll be roaming the halls, talking to people, shooting some footage as we go. If you guys have any questions about what's next, make them in the comments. Come back in 2 weeks because we'll have a whole slew of additional Origins titles that are being released during the show. And we will catch you guys next time.
Bye-bye.